All right. Well, welcome everyone to the third episode of Beyond Pink's podcast. My name is Jessica Southwick, and I am Beyond Pink's Executive Director, and we're happy to have you all tuning in. Today, I am joined by Karla Watkins. She is the co-founder of Beyond Pink and owner of Insight Thermal Imaging. So thank you so much for joining us, Karla.
Thank you for inviting me. This is exciting.
Yeah. It's been a fun little process. We've gotten to meet a lot of new people, and hopefully as we get going, we'll get some more interesting guests. So I've got a few questions. We'll just kind of jump in.
Okay.
What is your background, and how did you get started in thermography?
Okay. My background's in radiology, long time in both general radiology and CT. Okay. And I learned about thermography in 2007 from my naturopathic doctor. And so she educated me a little bit about it, but I was shocked. I'd never heard of it. And being in the imaging field my entire career, it was like, why? Why had I never heard about this? It's been FDA approved as an adjunct since 1982. Wow. So I started doing some research on my own and decided I wanted to have one. So I went in and had one, and that was it. I knew that women needed to know that we have an additional tool that can not just look for cancer, but any breast disease. Mm-hmm. So that was my mission. And then when I met Charlie Brewer, that was it. She was the perfect fit to start a charity to be able to help educate and provide funds for the technology.
Wow. And that seems to be kind of a consistent thing I'm hearing is, why didn't I know? Or why isn't this talked about more?
Yeah, it's under the realm of holistic, alternative, preventative, and our standard of care is, more about just looking for something after it's already formed.
Yeah.
So
it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Can you describe the process that someone goes through when they get a grant and come in for thermal imaging?
Absolutely. So once the grant is approved, we are notified, and we get them on the schedule. And we always like to make sure they are aware that there are a lot of things you have to avoid.
That's right.
Prior to thermal imaging, it's a very sensitive technology. We're primarily looking for inflammation. Mm-hmm. And temperature discrepancies between the two sides, and concerning vascular, that's arteries and veins. We can see those on thermal imaging. And then another really important aspect is the effects of estrogen on the breast tissue. We have the ability to see the vascularity, the arteries and veins that are reaching deep into the breast tissue. And so it's a great benefit to anybody that is doing hormone replacement therapy.
Oh, that's great. That's a good thing to keep in mind. So once they kind of arrive, what is your process with the grant recipient?
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Get me back on track.
That's okay.
Okay. So once they come for their appointment, I bring them into the room. I explain the process. And the process is basically that they will acclimate to the temperature in the room, which has to be controlled between 68 and 72 degrees. Mm-hmm. It cannot be lower or higher, and it cannot change more than 1 degree during the entire process. So that part is on the tech. They have nothing on from the waist up, and they're in a room by themselves for 15 minutes. That's called the acclimation period, and that's how it's standardized. Mm-hmm. Once the tech returns to the room, we take 5 images, and then because they got a grant, they also get to have the Mammacare clinical breast exam. The Mammacare clinical breast exam is the gold standard, and it is based on Braille. So it's much more thorough, and women are really appreciative of it because a lot of doctors are not even doing breast exams anymore.
Yeah.
After the breast exam, we give them a list of providers to pick from. So this is all included in the grant. They are given the contact information to call that provider and get a follow-up appointment with them. So the doctor their job is to go over the results and make recommendations as needed.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It is. So the whole process usually is within a month or so.
Yeah.
Because they need to see that follow-up doctor. I think the grants are good for 60 days.
Mm-hmm. And what are some of the things that people need to avoid since we have a captive audience? I know sometimes that's hard to get through, so maybe listening to it would help too.
Sure. So the longest period of time is if they've had any procedure done, even a mole removed or anything on their chest within 3 months.
Okay.
Okay. So, and then if they've had radiation treatment, sometimes radiation can show for years as inflammation.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I didn't realize that at first either.
Wow.
Let's see, that's the longest. And then no sun tanning for at least 1 week prior. We don't want false positive from sun tanning. And then everything else is within, I believe, 48, 24 hours, 6 hours, that type of thing. And some of the things that people don't really think about is pain medication. Preferably, we don't want to take pain medication because it will hide the inflammation, and that's what we're looking for. No procedures, no massage, no acupuncture, chiropractor, none of those things for at least 24 hours.
Wow.
Okay, and there's quite a few things on the list, but that kind of gives you an idea.
That's awesome.
Okay.
And so we kind of talked about this. What exactly are you looking for when you are kind of doing the images, and why does the technology work for finding these things?
Okay. Well, first off, thermal imaging is a test of physiology or function. Mammography, ultrasound, and MRI are all tests of anatomy, which are structure.
Yeah.
So physiology always happens before anatomy in medicine. With thermal imaging, we have the opportunity to see the disease process years before any other technology, before something has even formed. So we can give them a heads up or an early warning that, hey, something might be going on here. And each breast is rated on a scale from 1 to 5. Okay, 1 and 2 are low risk, 3 is medium risk, 4 and 5 are high risk. Anything over a 2, it's up to the doctor to make the recommendation, but usually they will definitely want to have some form of anatomical imaging.
Yeah.
And mammography is the standard of care, so that's generally where they go unless they're pregnant, nursing, or under the age of 30.
Okay, that's great. If people could take away just one fact about thermography, what would you want them to know and understand?
Okay. Thermography is best described as a risk assessment tool. It can help you to prevent breast cancer, not just detect it, or it can help. Loss of word. Detect inflammation and concerning vascular patterns. Okay, and those are going to be an indication that something may be going on.
What is a common misconception about breast cancer that you hear a lot, and what would you say to that?
There's two, really. Okay. One is a lady will come in and say, I don't have any family history. I'm just doing this because I want to, see what's going on. Family history, 80% of breast cancers, according to the studies, have no family history. So we're really kind of all in the same boat. On top of that, Washington State is one of the highest in the country. Don't know specifically why, but we do know that there is a lot of breast cancer in Washington State. Another one is genetics. If a woman has, say, the BRCA gene, they are extremely concerned about that, as they should be. But genetics make up a very small portion of people that get breast cancer. It's estimated between 5 and 10%. if you happen to have the BRCA gene, this is a great way to monitor your breast health.
Yeah.
And, in lieu of lopping off your breasts, which I believe is often recommended if you have the BRCA gene. So we have a tool to help prevent this horrific disease, and everybody needs to be aware of it.
Yeah. I did not know the genetic
Is that
statistic
small?
about. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Significant.
It really is. I know we get this question a lot. What is the difference between mammography and thermography?
Great question. So mammography is using radiation to look at the breast tissue to look for something that has already formed. It's using 2 plates that have to compress the breast tissue quite snugly so that they can get a good image for the radiologist. Thermography is using an infrared camera. So there's no radiation, there's no compression, nothing touches you, there's no pain. You basically sit about 4 feet, 5 feet away from me when I take the images. Those are the 2 biggest as far as the technology goes, how they're performed. But thermography is recommended to start at age 20 when, generally speaking, women still have healthy breast tissue for their baseline. And then starting at age 30, it would be done annually. Okay. Or more often if they're high risk.
Yeah.
Okay.
And typically, mammography doesn't start until 40?
It depends. 40 is average.
Okay.
A few of our organizations are recommending that it starts at age 50 and then every other year. And I think what the issue is here is with dense breast tissue.
Yes.
So because almost half of the population of women have what's considered dense breast tissue, mammography can be a challenge. So it's estimated that it's about 48% accurate if you have dense breast tissue. So that's definitely a problem with mammography, and other alternatives should be done.
Yeah. That's great that we have that option.
Yes.
What gaps do you see in our current medical process of kind of breast health, and how do you think those could be remedied?
Well, let's see. Well, first off, all women that have what's considered dense breast tissue on their first mammogram, unless their doctor told them they had dense breast tissue and they're already aware of it, ultrasound should be not just determined by the radiologist. This is just my opinion. I think that all women that have dense breast tissue should have an ultrasound, regardless of whether they do a mammogram or not.
Yeah.
So, because none of these tools are 100% accurate, but together they're very strong.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's estimated between a clinical breast exam, thermal imaging, and a mammogram or ultrasound in the high 90% rate of detection, which is much more significant than just using one tool.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't know that either. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I feel like we'd all sleep a little better at night if we knew it was a 90-something% accuracy.
Yeah, a lot. It's a lot.
Instead
a
of
lot
that
better.
wondering.
So what the problem is with mammography is a tumor will show up white and dense breast tissue shows up white. So it's like looking for a snowflake in a snowstorm.
Yeah. So using those other tools give you a higher likelihood of finding
Yes,
it.
they're all looking at different aspects.
Yeah. That's good to know. And obviously you've been a part of Beyond Pink since the very beginning.
I have.
What do you want people to know and remember about Beyond Pink as an organization, especially since you've seen it evolve a lot over the last 14 years?
Well, I am hopeful that that we mostly see women, even though unfortunately men are getting breast cancer also. The educational portion, from what I have heard, is greatly appreciated.
Yeah.
We always hear about, running for the cure and all of these things, but I strongly feel prevention is the cure.
Yeah.
And that is something that I never learned until I started doing thermal imaging myself. that this is something that we are in control of. Most cancers can be prevented. It's environmental, it's lifestyle. So the educational portion is huge. And then the fact that Beyond Pink is able to fund this is huge because insurance doesn't generally reimburse for thermal imaging. Aflac is one of the only insurance companies that I'm even aware of that will pay a portion, and that has to be their cancer policy. Okay, so, but other than that, those are the two basic things: is that we're able to fund it for those that can't afford it, or that don't have expendable money, and the educational portion.
Yeah.
So, and that has been extremely fulfilling.
Yeah. It's a big part of what you've been doing for 14 years.
14 years almost. Wow. Yeah.
It's hard to believe that it's been that long.
I know. I know.
From very early beginnings till now.
Yeah.
It's grown quite a bit.
It has. Gratefully.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much to our community for supporting Beyond Pink. It really is. I mean, 100% of the net proceeds go to local women to have this done.
Yeah, and that's a pretty fulfilling job to get to do.
It is.
Well, that's all the questions that I have. Is there anything else that you wanted to add or cover that maybe I didn't ask?
I can't think of anything. Not right off.
Okay, well, thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Yeah. I love sharing all the information about this.
I know we probably could have gotten in the weeds with some of that technical, but...
Yeah, we'll try to keep it as simple as possible.
Yeah, make it digestible. That's the best way.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.